Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. We are doing something really exciting today. We are joined by Elaine Penhaul, who is the director and founder of Lemon and Lime Interiors, which are a national and international award-winning interior design company.
Whilst Elaine is extremely experienced in staging and interior design, her background comes from years of property development, renovations and design.
Currently, we are overflowing with ideas across all the rooms in the house, so we thought it was an essential thing to do is to bring in an expert to help guide us through this next part of the process.
So in this episode, we're going to explore different spaces in the house with Elaine to get a better understanding of how our ideas can be brought to reality.
We're super excited about this episode, so thank you for joining us on this. So let's get into it. We have the wonderful Elaine with us today because me and Michael are very conscious that we are wanting to start to get some rooms finalised and we don't want to make any mistakes. So it's really good to have somebody like Elaine with us on this journey. Explain kind of how you fell in love with this side of design, because this is like from the bare bones of a house, really.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited to be here with you both today and to see this project. I know we've talked about it for a little while now. I fell into Lemon and Lime Interiors from my background in doing renovation and then renting properties out and so on. So I bought my first house or first renovation in 1992.
Whereabouts was that?
That was in Warwickshire. So actually not very far away from here, about an hour up the motorway in North Warwickshire. And that was a 15th century cottage, and it was timber framed, and it had been added on to over every century since. By the time we got to it, you could put your arm through the roof when we bought it. The gable end wall was falling off. There was a gap between the roof and the gable end was doing this. And the house was just in the most incredible state, just incredibly awful. And we stripped the whole lot back to the bare bones. It had sandstone foundations. We put the acro props on the sandstone foundations to hold up the timber frame.
Did you do most of it yourself?
I was married to a developer, which helps. But at the same time, he did commercial, and so he was building a new industrial estate. So every so often when they'd got nothing to do, then I got the guys back. So it took quite a long time. We did the stable block first so that we could move into that as a little 2 up, 2 down. Moved into that bit, and 3 or 4 days later my first child was born.
Wow.
Just to throw that into the mix. Then had 3 more children in the course of that renovation, and overall we had that house for 17 years.
Wow.
One of the things, and I'm sure you've had the same experience, that the two of you, that your friends come in at this stage and go, "Oh, you're mad. This is such a huge project. What are you doing?" You never have nice clothes on. You're always absolutely covered in plaster dust and just mud. And then, 5, 10, 15 years later, all your friends go, "Oh, aren't you lucky? It's amazing." They forget the years that
the hard graft.
Literally, you just couldn't get the smell of plaster dust out of your nose.
I think it's amazing that you did it like pregnant and with children, because I actually think there's so many people, it's like you won't want to be doing this like once you have your kids. And I'm thinking not that that's necessarily in the near future, but we've got such a love for this.
Got that in mind as well,
that I don't think it would slow us down, and I feel like you've obviously had the same mindset. It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, very much. No,
you just crack
had
on.
to get on with it. There wasn't time to do one and then the other.
No. Do you have any pictures of that house? Because it would be amazing.
Yeah, I can do some pictures. I can scan some pictures
so good
and send them over to you. Yeah, for sure, because it was absolute wreck. We were looking at the garden earlier here and saying to you, that we literally gardened with a JCB for years.
I can't even imagine gardening in that garden at this moment in time. The thought of that is a bit scary. That'll be a Michael job.
The funny thing is, I've saved we had all the windows replaced, and I've saved all the old timber windows. And they're stored in the garage, and my plan is I want to make like a greenhouse out of it, and also I kind of mishmash them together. But I might have to wait off.
Yeah. We'll be holding on to those windows for a while.
I was going to say, when I sold the house that we were just talking about, which was, I think we had that, I had that for 17 years. And when I sold it, we'd still got things in the barn like that we'd planned to do a project with a bit later. And by the time, by the time we've now got 4 children, the house is finally finished. All you really want to do is lie down.
It will get to a point where we're just so excited to sit on the sofa and just be like, there's nothing left to do. There's nothing left to do. But then you get the itch.
Well, and then you have to go to the next one, which is what I did.
This is going to end up being our guest bedroom, which we're quite sad about because compared to the front room, which we'll show what will be our main bedroom, this is the nicer room, but the front one will lend itself to an ensuite better. So we feel like that will end up being the principal suite. But we're going to move into this one to start with. We've just got to the point of miscoating, so we're talking about. So we've just managed to do that. Good to show you ideas. We're pretty set in stone with the vibe, but it'll be good from what I'll show you on my Pinterest board to what the space actually is. I mean, the good thing about this room is the fact it's got 3 windows. I feel like we uncovered that actually. So that was all plastered up. And it was behind a wardrobe. Yeah. And then we were like, hang on a sec, what? And then we saw it from the outside and I was like, there's another window there.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I love old houses for all of that. The things that you find. And when you walk around, I did it with a house that we've just done a whole load of interior design for a client. And again, it's an old house and it's been added to over the years. And we walked around the outside and completely different, you can see where they've bricked up doorways, where they've bricked up windows, where they've opened things up, and where the different bits of the house, because the bricks are different on the different stages of the house. And it fascinates me. I love it.
Going through this hallway, apparently this, where it widens, this was the original door for this was one big room. So that's a stud wall. This was one big, huge room. So somebody obviously, I think it must have been the previous owners, because I think this has only had 2 owners.
Oh, really? When was it built?
1912, 1914. I think the family that we bought it off has had it since like the 50s, 60s. And they had it that whole way through. But all of this, which is just crazy how big that room would be.
And it is the huge advantage of buying older houses because you get so much more space.
And this, we've pretty much chosen everything. So we can show you our little mood board for this. But this is hopefully going in the next week or 2. So
this week,
to be fair, but that will hopefully help set the tone, because we do want, I suppose, I mean, have you had houses where people want different aesthetics in every single room, or do you feel like it should really
I think it should flow. It should flow, because if you have a different aesthetic in each room, most people want to go home from work or whatever, they want to go into their home and for it to feel like a calm space, for it to feel like a space that you can live in. You don't have to you haven't got a whole load of stuff competing in your head. And even though you've got, you might have kids, you might have dogs, you might have, a family around, all kinds of other things going on in the home. But if you've got competing colours and a competing aesthetic in every room, that's just another thing that your head is having to deal with. Whereas if you come in and it flows, then that it will feel calmer.
Because it's like such an older property. I think as soon as we looked around and was like, right, we're going to buy it, it's like it needs to lend itself to its age. It's not like we've bought like a relatively new house that you can completely shape yourself. Like I do feel like there is, in a good way, restrictions. Like we should stay on a certain design because of the age of the house and lend itself to that. So hopefully we've done that with the bathroom. So we'll show you kind of like our bathroom suite and because I do think hopefully you like it. But that can kind of give you an idea of maybe like how each room should be. I mean, I don't think really the bathroom should be the starting point of the whole house, but it has naturally become the starting point.
And I think if one thing, you fall in love with one thing and it is a starting point, because otherwise, where do you start? You've got so much space. Where do you start? Do you start with the colour that you love? Do you start? Sometimes people will start with a piece of art that they love. And that's, you know, whatever happens, that's got to go in the house somewhere. People will say to me, okay, great. So let's take colours, let's take a vibe from that and run that through the house. And it doesn't matter what you start with.
I wonder what ours was. Maybe it was the bathtub. The bathtub. We knew what kind of bathtub we wanted.
With the house, the age that it is, the style of the house, especially like looking at photos of it. We've got Claire sent us loads of photos from the 50s and 60s, and we could see what it was like pristine. We very much tried to restore it back to kind of what it should be looking like and what it did before. We're thinking about the bathroom, we're like, okay, well, we want a nice freestanding bath, and we want the traditional looking panelling and everything else. So
I think it's really fascinating, that whole thinking about how you're going to do a house, particularly an older house, which is my experience of of houses that I've lived in. Because when we bought the one that we were talking about earlier in 92, it was very fashionable at that point, where you had a period house to completely acknowledge the period and to almost go back to the period for everything. So Dulux had brought out a range called the Heritage range, and the colours were the older colours. I mean, Farrow existed at that point, but it was much too expensive for normal people. And, you know, so Dulux brought out this range which had quite similar colours, and they would acknowledge a particular period, and they actually grouped them in the period of the house. And so everybody was doing, you know, going back to the period.
As soon as you know the period of your home, you go there.
As soon as you know, then that's where you go. Which is why now, as a staging company, what we still see, where people have bought 30, 40 years ago, where you've got, you know, there was red. I think in Farrow Baltham's it's reading room red, but there was a Dulux Heritage colour that's very similar.
Yeah.
And that was really, really common for dining rooms. But you didn't just paint the dining room, and particularly if it was beamed, you didn't just paint the walls, you painted the ceiling as well. So you would have dark beams, you would have dark red everywhere, and then you would have largely wall lights that acknowledge that kind of cottage period. And I think what's interesting is that when we design our houses now, whatever period we're doing them in, however much we don't think we are, there's an influence from what we read, from what we see, from all of those things as well. So you're acknowledging the period, but you're acknowledging the trends related to that period. And I would never have known that if I hadn't, you know, if we weren't now 40 years on and I can look back and I understood my thinking at that point. So I think whatever you do, there are kind of big ticket items, you know, your bathroom, your bathtub, you know, they're expensive things. Do those that you love and that feel right in the house. But things like colours and some of the other decoration things, inevitably you'll change, because, you know, and you know, as you know, from your agency experience, that you could walk into a house very often and date exactly when it had been last decorated. So it's being prepared to be flexible and not spending too much money on things that may date. We were talking, and we'll talk a bit more about kitchens. But kitchens are the biggest dater of a house.
This room we can't really get into, and we've ripped down all the ceilings, so it's a bit dusty still at the moment, but we had to redo it all. This will eventually be another guest bedroom, but because it's just the two of us, I am going to make this my wardrobe room. Oh, and Michael's wardrobe room. But it's
Michael's. So Michael's got one, that's Michael's, and then the rest of it.
I don't like having clothes storage in a bedroom.
No.
I don't like too much wardrobe and drawers. Like, to me, like, we were quite fortunate in the fact that it was just the two of us before. We had 2 bedrooms in our old house, and we purposely decided to not make it a spare bedroom. It was our wardrobe room, and then it was our bedroom. And now I couldn't get that in my head where you'd have all of your wardrobe stuff where you sleep in.
No. I've always been lucky enough to have a dressing room as well, and we're just looking at potentially opportunity to do a barn conversion. But we also own a little house next door, which is a bungalow essentially. 2-bedroom bungalow, but I'm looking at, blimey, if I have to move into there, then I need that as my bedroom. And then we've got to do wardrobes in the second bedroom.
Where
am I going to put stuff?
I get that. So this, it's our bath. So bath delivery. So this will eventually be the principal bedroom, because we're going to knock through a doorway there, because that basically that's bedroom number 5, but it's so dinky. So we're going to create that to be an ensuite. So then this becomes, and then I suppose being next to like the wardrobe room, this half of the house becomes a bit more like what will be ours, and then if we had guests and like the family bathroom and stuff at the end. With bathrooms as well, ensuite and our family bathroom, would you have them pretty much not exactly the same, but running on the same like style?
Yeah, I would probably keep your suite in more or less the same style, so that you're not doing super modern in one and very traditional in the other, for example. I would keep your suite in the same range. Yeah, this is gorgeous, isn't it?
Electrician to put like
You're going to have one that goes straight down there.
I want something big and bold.
Yeah.
That's like, I feel like as soon as we walked into this when we were viewing it with Claire, we're like, oh my God, imagine the light fit that you can have there. It'd be so cool. We want to do, we don't have the budget to actually make that stained glass, but next door, they have made their window stained glass on the staircase, and it looks gorgeous. Like it looks so nice. So I think we've done a lot of research. You can get, I don't know if you've come across it, like the film
that you
as long as you get a high quality one. So it looks.
It's good.
Is it?
It's good. Yeah, I went somewhere the other day and that we stayed. We went to a wedding and we stayed in a really lovely hotel, kind of boutique hotel, and they'd done it on the bathroom windows, and I'm going, is that real or is that something? It was filmed, but it was really good.
Because as long as it looks high quality. I mean, whether we do the full thing or we do like just the top 2 or something, but we just really liked.
Yeah, we love the idea of it, don't we?
Yeah.
It's such a nice big window as well.
It's huge.
Yeah, and you don't want to lose all the light, and that is the only thing with the film or with any stained glass, that you lose quite a lot of light. So I might try it on the top bit first. And then
that's a good shout. This literally, I think last week this looked like a completely different room. We had to move all the plasterboard in here, so it kind of it went a bit crazy.
We're really, really torn. Me and Georgie, especially Georgie, works from home, and I think that will be, especially with my job moving forward in the future, that'll become more of a thing as well. So we actually had in our head that we'd like to turn this into a bit of like a sitting area, but also like an office as well.
I would say that's more important.
It's got to work for you, and I can see it if you were going to use it as a workspace as well, then getting some shelving with some books, and so it's almost got a library type feel as well, with some good seating, and then you've got great desks so that you can both work.
Because it seems like in the future, obviously, like me working from home, obviously just want a comfortable setup, but the more stuff that we do, even to do with this stuff, it's like having you around, for example, it would be nice to have a space in our house where it feels like a meeting space.
Yes, like where you can sit and do.
Like it feels homely, but it feels also like an office space.
And you can't plan a house around. The one thing I learned with the one that we did while the kids were little, was that the rooms evolve. So it may be that you need it as a workspace now, or it may be that you need it as that you set it up as a formal lounge now, but actually maybe it becomes a playroom, or maybe it becomes a teenage den where they do their homework and they watch telly and they've got the game, games set up, all of those things. You don't know.
But it can be easily.
You just have to allow it to evolve.
To change over time.
Yeah, of course it can.
I've just seen the plastering. I haven't seen this room plastered. Michael's been coming after work looking at it, and I haven't looked at it. Make sure you're doing a good job, Dan. You've got an audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this had knocked out 2 walls. So this had big chimney breast and wall, and then obviously there. So before, this was the kitchen, and there was a doorway to come in from the hallway, and then this was set up as a bit of a utility space. There was another sink in here. I mean, initially we were only going to get rid of this wall and just have this as a space, but then my brother-in-law, who's a builder, he literally was like, whack this wall out as well. He was just like, the space that you'll get. So the way that we've designed the kitchen is this whole space is our kitchen. We wanted a massive kitchen. We're quite... Well, I would say we spend a lot of the time in the kitchen. We are the kind of people that will like sit and cook and sit and eat but this is why I think we like open plan, because I wouldn't like the thought of like, say if you were cooking in here and I was doing something else, but like we're in separate rooms, like it's just nice to be in one big space.
We've come from an open plan house as well, so in our previous house, the whole of the downstairs was all open plan.
Felt like a bit of a studio living.
Upstairs, so we're used to that open plan living as well.
And
that's what we kind of wanted to replicate, didn't we?
And I think, look, most people now have open plan to, at least to an extent. And then if you have kids, mine will just do their homework in the kitchen on the island, because you've got a big enough island for them to sit and do it, and you can kind of keep an eye on what's going on. You can cook, you can do maths homework at the same time, you can do, whatever else.
It feels more functional.
It feels much more functional. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's this side that I think we have in our heads some versions of how furniture can slot. But then we've got all the outside bit. But this will be pretty much the lounge. But it's how it flows with the kitchen. And then I think we've gone through all the different ways of positionings of sofas and where you put your TV and if we have a coffee table or all of those things. So I think this is the one that is the hardest for us to wrap our head around in terms of...
So that's the original fireplace here. So we put a new flue down, and our plan is to have like a log burner there. So that's going to be quite like a cosy space for us.
So it's just zoning off.
And this is a space that I would say sometimes, if this is your open plan, this is your kind of kitchen, living, all that, dining presumably in there as well. And then because you've got this and you've got the door coming in here, the flow of this will be not straightforward to get it right. So I think there's an advantage in almost getting this right and then holding off on this. And then when it's all clear and ready, then just use temporary furniture to start with. And then move things in and out to see what's going to work in terms of layout, because once you've got the layout, then choosing furniture is straightforward, because you know what sizes you're looking at, you know where things are going to go. But I wouldn't rush this space, because it's not going to be a quick, easy fix, because that's about how you use it.
And the good thing is because obviously everything's on a budget, so once we've put the kitchen on order, that's probably one of the biggest outlays that we're going to have for a while. So like when that's done, and we're hopefully going to get that done just before Christmas, so maybe like November time, once that's done, we will just be living with like our old stuff for a while. And actually our old sofa, we wouldn't want to keep it anyway, or we'd want to upholster it because it's grey. I don't want it grey. But it's a good sofa, but it's also really big. So I think that will be a really good indication that we'll put this in this space.
Do we need something smaller?
We likely will need something smaller, or like how much a sofa can take a space. Because we also saw, we went away last weekend, we stayed in an Airbnb in a sort of sofa that had a really low back, and it had like a bit of a flat back, and I felt like it just opened up the whole space. Like it was a decent sized sofa, but it wasn't really high up.
Because it's lower,
So then I suppose it's then thinking about even the style of sofa or furniture that you have in here to not make... Because I want this to still feel like a big space, but I feel like you could easily just clunk this with loads of stuff.
And this is a big space, but it's not a straightforward space, because your fireplace with that bit there, the fireplace is offset. You've obviously got a radiator going there. You've got, this is a walkway into
we have
here.
That there, so that's the old connections for the radiator. So that's one of the things we haven't decided yet.
Because we
don't. An old radiator there and an old radiator there.
Right.
We still need to decide where we're going to put.
Because that's the only flat wall that we've got.
And so if that's still an option, then I think probably, because this is obviously, you're walking into this here, aren't you? So probably having the option to put a sofa down here is a good option. You don't want a sofa straight across there because of the flow there. You don't want a sofa straight across your doors to the garden, or certainly not in the summer. You want to have the option of that being a walk through straight from here out. So having a sofa there is probably quite a good thing, and then going with chairs at this end,
I think that'd be
and
good.
then having any storage in the alcoves in there and there.
As we don't have a nice space to sit in the house at the moment, we got ourselves comfortable at a local coffee shop and ran through our bathroom ideas with Elaine. And thankfully, she really loved them, which felt like a huge tick in the right direction moving forward, as that is something that is happening imminently. But after giving her a full tour of our home, we quickly realised that the kitchen was the space we absolutely needed to get right before we could even think about the living area next to it. So over coffee and a slice of a cake, we sat down to talk through the part of the kitchen that's been giving us the most trouble.
So your island, yes. So
It's the biggest dilemma we've got at the moment, isn't it?
What do you want to... It's going to sound slightly odd. What do you want to do in that space in your kitchen? So let's imagine that there's no island there at the minute. Let's just imagine you've got all the storage that you need. You've got your cooker, you've got your sink, you've got all of those things around the outside. How do you eat? How do you entertain? Where do you sit when you're in your kitchen?
Well, thinking back to our house previously, so it was... You kind of come in the front door, and immediately on the left you had like a kind of a kitchen area here, and then a big long breakfast bar where the other side it would always sit. And what we'd end up having to do was all sit around the breakfast bar, a bit awkwardly sometimes because we didn't have a dining table. But it is down to kind of the things that you just said. So I imagine that when we have kids, we'd probably eat together, because I'm always been from a family where you sit down, you eat dinner together. You don't just go and sit in random places around the house. So it's having somewhere to sit collectively to eat together, but then also to host when, like, we quite often have our friends round, and we'd always sit round and play some board games. Or
do we see stools round a island as a fine, like, alternative to a dining table, because that's what we've been used to?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
But it's like, this is the dilemma. Do we want to change that and have more of an actual dining space? Because the only worry that we have is you can't fit both.
No.
Yeah. We did see in DIY kitchens, I don't know if the picture's on yours, where you see like, it's like a dining table like leads on from the island, but it would still mean that you'd have a taller stool. So that would like led off the...
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And we didn't know if there was potentially like enough space to do that at the end of here, or...
And you don't have to have it all at the same height.
Yeah.
And it depends what you want your island for. Is your island also storage? Do you need the storage that's in your island? Or do you go for something, given the period of the house, do you go for something that's a bit more traditional and just have a really big, solid farmhouse table that you have some seating around for normal, and then you use part of it as your preparation, as your working space as well. Yeah. And then you've got more seating that you bring in when you've got family over. So if this is your kitchen and you've got cupboards all the way round, so that's 6720. Yeah. And that must be minus 1,200. I'm assuming that your cupboards are 600 deep. Here you've got 3,890 minus 600, because you've only got one depth there. So you've got more or less 3.3 metres there. So you've got 5.5 metres there. So let's say 3.3 and 5.5 metres there.
For you, in like all the sort of the areas that you see, is that a good amount of space to have?
Yeah, that's great amount
like
of
an
space.
Island, like a small table.
Yeah, so then really it's about, I think your island as it sits at the minute is kind of lost in this space a little bit. You can see on the plan there, and I think it will be a bit lost. You only need kind of 900 or a metre here to go as a walkthrough, particularly if this is kind of working space, because you don't want to have to walk from your island back to your sink.
Right, you kind of just want to be able to just turn
You
around.
want to be able to turn round more or less and put things in.
Yeah.
So I would almost be looking to go and have something that comes a little bit more, that's not huge, I'm not talking about huge, but something that's a little bit more substantial here, almost a bit coming out into this space. I know this comes across here, but not so much, does it? You've got kind of a... So I'd look to have something that comes a bit closer here, so you've got about a metre, just around a metre from each of these. It's a bit squarer in there, so that it's useful workspace for your sink and for your stove.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Rather than just a kind of a sitting bit.
Ultimately, that island then just becomes, it's just an extra bit of worktop surface.
That's what we had in our mind.
So that's prep space, and if that's, I mean, the way I've drawn it at the moment, it's about 1,200 square.
Yeah.
So that's not going to take up, in 5.5 metres of space, you've got a metre here. So that's your, you know, by the time you get to the end of your island, you're not even halfway across your kitchen. Yeah. Do you then get a bench built into here that's slightly curved off the edges of here, and have a round table in here?
Yeah, we have seen that, yeah.
And chairs round there, so that you're using the end of this end of your island, so you probably then want your drawers going that way.
Yeah.
But then you use this end of your island to build a bench seat into, which is relatively small. You know, you might get 2 or 3 people on there. And then you have a round table, which is table height, not island height. And then you put chairs around there.
Yeah.
I think if you're doing a big project with potentially some expensive items, so bathrooms, kitchens, even paneling, you know, the things that you could make mistakes with quite easily, and especially if it's a whole house project like you're doing, then paying for, and we do just consultations, we'll charge by the hour or half day or whatever it is, and we'll design mood boards which will take somebody's ideas and bring them together and add in, you know, kind of elevate those to the next level with our experience and knowledge and so on. And I think that very often a relatively modest spend of, you know, a few £100 at that end, if somebody has a consultation, can save a lot of money further down the line, making big mistakes on those big ticket items. So we've just looked at your island, for example. Now, if you had taken those plans and just gone straight ahead with them, I think quite quickly you would look at that island and think, does it really work for us? And then that's a very big ticket item to have to take out and start all over again, or just to live with that bit of, it's not really what we wanted.
So really, to get somebody in, obviously everybody's got their different stages of, they might just be doing a room, but for somebody that's taken on a renovation project, to think about design, you can't think about design too late, because it comes down to the fundamentals, like where's your pipe work going, and all of that stuff.
Plugs, everything. You know, I can't tell you the number of developers that we've worked with that call us in at the end because they think we're doing the furnishing, that the staging is just about the furniture at the end, by which time you've got a radiator on the only wall that you could have put a television unit, for example, that you've got plug sockets in the places that's easiest to pull plug sockets into, so the electricians have done them because it's cheap and it's easy. Nobody in their right mind would watch television in that corner or put a lamp in that corner. You know, and what that then means for a developer is that they've got a lot of snagging, but it's retrofit snagging for things that they could have preempted.
I think you've actually made us think differently already today, but it's so easy for us where we've got to do every single room to try and think about the design of every single room. But when you were stood in the kitchen, you went, well, get that right first, and then the next, and then that will come. And it's like, we've been thinking that we have to see it as one whole space and get it all done kind of together, when actually it makes you realise that's rushing making decisions without doing it really step by step. It helped massively.
Good.
It really actually has. It's like, it's made us think. I think we're going to come back after today going,
we'll probably have a million more questions.
Well, but that's what I'm here for. You know, I am supporting you now from here until you've got this finished. You know, I want to see the whole thing. It's no good saying, thanks, Elaine, off you go, because I'm damn well coming.